The Metaverse sucks. Or at least it did 3 years ago. I haven't kept up, but last I checked. I don't want to talk about negatives today, though. I'd like to tell a story of what the Metaverse could be. Imagine your friend sends you a link and you put on your VR headset and join their world. There's no ads, there's no third-party sign-on, it's hosted on a server in their basement. Their base world is a bungalow on the beach at sunset, but what they wanted to show you today is a new pool table they got. They downloaded the original table off a forum, but they hacked the scripts over the weekend, so now instead of just running a game of pool, it has little houses on it. Red ones and blue ones, and they say the goal is to knock down the opponent's houses, but not your own. You play a few rounds, it's a little buggy, and at one point the table crashed and had to be re-added to the scene, but it's a good start for just a weekend. When you finally knock down the largest house, it plays a loud trumpet sequence, maybe too loud. Another friend of yours hears the sound from the other room and looks in. They're in their personal world, but you keep portals open by default, third spaces and all that. I didn't see you guys log in. I've been working on a new dress for my avatar. What do you think? They say. They do the classic twirl. It's nice, but with multiple layers of translucent cloth and custom low gravity, it'll exceed the computation limit on most public worlds for sure. They say they know, and they're still tweaking the lower level of detail for the concert next week. But they hope we'll whitelist the full version, so at least we can see it in all its glory. And of course I will. And that's what I imagine it would be like if I had friends. I mean, if the Metaverse was actually good. Infinitely customizable, semi-private worlds run locally but connected. Sure, tone-deaf corporate mega-servers with microtransactions will still exist. And there will still be sweaty game lobbies full of racists because those things exist in the real world. But I don't think that's where people will spend the majority of their virtual lives. I want a metaverse that's standardized for ease of interoperability, but decentralized, where anyone can create and host anything they want, and decide who can join and what the rules are. I want a metaverse that's like the early web, full of creativity and potential. And not like the modern web, where 5 companies decide what can be heard and everything is locked down and plastered with ads. I want a metaverse more like Mastodon than like Facebook or Twitter. So why can't we have that? Well, there's social, societal reasons, and there are practical, technical reasons. I'm an engineer. I solve practical problems. The way I see it, right now, the biggest technical hurdle for the open metaverse is that making a fully simulated 3D world online with lots of users is very difficult to do well. Much of the tooling around virtual reality in general right now is pretty bad. Making 3D apps and games is already hard, and when you add virtual reality and large-scale networking with 4 tools on top of that, it is nigh insurmountable. What we need is something like HTML, highly configurable but with a standardized backbone. There are image tags and tables and links, so people don't have to worry about TCP/IP packets or GPU instructions, and what they want to do is design a website. For the metaverse, we need standards for avatars and 3D spaces and actions. We need a default vendor, but it should be overridable. And we need a system that just handles networking, so you can write code without worrying about networking and it'll just work. We need multiple apps to be able to run together seamlessly in a world, and we need new users to be able to sync into a live running app at any time and move seamlessly from server to server. That should all just work. And ideally it'd be even easier to develop for than making a single player 3D game is now. That is what World Fabric is. Or rather, that is what World Fabric aspires to be. I have already built a system to automatically synchronize arbitrary code over the network and allow loading into an app in progress and running multiple apps within a world. That is the core of the World Fabric engine. I call it the timeline. I'm currently working on the 3rd iteration of the timeline synchronization algorithm, which is fully relativistic, but that deserves a video all on its own. The important part for now is that, using the timeline, I've created a standardized structure for metaverse apps. There are timeline objects, which have a location in the virtual world, but otherwise could contain any data. And there are timeline events, which execute a function on an object at a specific time. An event can only modify the object it is running at, But events can read other objects, and events can spawn more events at the same object or at other objects. So for instance, if you want a classic Unity-style update function, you can make an event on an object, point it at the update function, and then at the end of the update function tell it to queue another event for that same function again on that same object, 1/60th of a second after the current time. Event functions can be any void returning function on the object and can have parameters as normal. If an object's function wants to modify an object other than itself, it has to create an event to call another function on that object to apply the change. But it can pass parameters for the change and they'll be delivered when the event runs, so it's still pretty easy. I've tried to make the timeline event system as simple and transparent as I can, as it is the critical component that makes automatic networking possible. Every piece of code has to run at a specific time and place for the synchronization algorithm to do its thing. So you kind of have to take the execution thread of your app and stitch it into discrete points in the fabric of space-time. That's where the name World Fabric comes from. Writing an app for World Fabric consists of sewing your execution thread into a virtual world, and thus the app execution engine that makes it all work is the World Fabric. I hope that metaphor makes sense to everyone because I already registered a bunch of stuff with the name. So you put your core app logic into the timeline and networking is solved. Great. What about everything else? You still need rendering and sound and controls and file management and avatars and animations and, well, basically an entire regular game engine. And you need all of that stuff to work well with a core app engine that occasionally runs time backwards and sideways. So most of the last 2 years has been building that everything else. I made Portal Fox's TD along the way because how could I know if I'm making a usable game engine without using it to make a full game? Portal Fox is his single player though, so it doesn't really use the core. I built a new timeline core since then and just recently rebuilt the rendering system for Vulkan, so things should be getting more interesting soon. The plan right now is to make some small games and worlds to iron out issues with the new systems. I'd like to create some standardized actions across VR and non-VR so I can build for both simultaneously. Maybe make some improvements to the sound and avatar system so I can record these videos in the engine itself instead of using a webcam. And soon, I'll open source the whole thing. Ultimately, the plan is to create a free and open metaverse standard for everyone that isn't under corporate control. So if that's your jam, like and subscribe, I guess. I'll definitely need help spreading the word when the time comes. I've also got a Discord linked in the description if you want to contribute or just chat with me and others who are interested in this kind of thing. I'll get into more technical details in future videos, but I think that's plenty for today. Our sync out!